everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to another brand new edition of Daily to Dynasty. I'm Craig Gorbanoff alongside Rich Wilhelm, talking to you all things Thanksgiving Day, Thanksgiving week football. Happy Thanksgiving, wherever, however you're celebrating. Hope everyone's safe and thankful and eating turkey or ham or whatever it is you like to gorge on. Rich, my personal favorite is the stuffing. I think it's a wild card. It's an underdog, but year in and year out, the stuffing is my favorite part of Thanksgiving dinner, and I don't think we talk about it enough. We should have it year round. I don't get why. I know you can make it, but there's certain things that just don't they don't seem to get made. And yeah. I think stuffing. This is my petition right here. Put it in the comment section below. Should stuffing be made year round? I say yes.
I mean, I say no because I just don't like it, but I could see other people why they like it. It just seems like dirty bread butt juice.
You should have the stuffing my mother makes and tell me that.
Well, does she put it in the actual bird?
No. It's on
okay, because most people put it in the bird, and then it's literally stuffing. That's why it's called stuffing. It's just dirty bread intestines. But I'm one for the sweet potatoes with the marshmallows in them, the little marshmallows in there.
Those are pretty good.
That's my go-to for Thanksgiving.
Those are pretty good.
Yeah.
Either way, we're looking forward to Thanksgiving. This show is releasing. It's being recorded Wednesday at 2 p.m. We had a little bit of breaking news before we got on. The primetime Thanksgiving Day game, Steelers-Ravens, has been postponed to Sunday due to COVID-related reasons in Baltimore. We will kind of keep an eye on that and see what's going on. We'll talk about the game and some starts and ads and analysis, but obviously you want to keep a mindful eye if you have any of those players, because I suppose there's a possibility the game might not happen. But the way the season has been going, that really hasn't happened so far. They've found a way to make these games work, whether that's postponement or delays or so be it. So more than likely that game will be played on Sunday. Rich, let's kick off our analysis with the annual Detroit Lion Thanksgiving football game. They play the Houston Texans. The Lions are coming off of a shutout, and the Texans are coming off of a pretty impressive game. They're the 3-point favorites here. What do you expect more of the same out of Detroit, or do you expect them to bounce back, I guess is the question.
I mean, it's going to be an uphill battle for Watson. I mean, 2 of his top 3 wide receivers are out for this game. And then his starting running back is out for this game. It's going to come down to, role players stepping up, and he's going to have almost a near flawless game just because the Detroit Lions, I mean, they're bad on paper, but they do play well on Thanksgiving is what I've noticed. I mean, it's their day. It's their day. It's the Cowboys' day. They realize that, it's their time to shine. They're on prime time. But, I think Watson can pull it off with what he has. Fuller and, you got Duke in there. There's not much else, honestly. But the Lions, I mean, last week it was a stinker. Even your boy Matt Prater, he missed a field goal so bad it went off the camera. He was pretty bad. He had -1 points for your fantasy leagues last week. Kenny Golladay is still banged up, so it's kind of gonna equal out. I don't think it's gonna be a great game. It's gonna be the game when you're about to eat meal 1 maybe that you're just like, I don't care about this one. But then the one after it is just as bad. But I'm going to go with the Texans. I think that Watson, he can pull stuff out of nothing because he was winning, when Bill O'Brien was still gutting his team. Not this year, but like last year. So I think he has a chance to, throw at least 2 touchdowns because it's going to be all about him. He might run one in too.
Yeah, I look at this game and I take a look at last week, and, the Lions don't necessarily have a lot of time on their side, right, to come up with new schemes, new game plans, right? You go from Sunday and having the Thursday game. It's kind of a rush job, and they really missed the boat on Sunday against the P.J. Walker, former XFL famous quarterback-led Carolina Panthers. And not for nothing, with how beat up the Panthers were, and kind of the state of the Texans, I don't view them as very different teams. Watson is better than, P.J. Walker by miles, but team wise, I think they're actually fairly similar. And with just the way that the Panthers dominated that game, it was the fact that they only had 20 points was kind of astounding to me. They were still able to move the football. They got into the end zone. I don't see a way in which the Texans can't do the same, even if they are beat up. I think he still has Fuller. I think they're gonna play the deep ball. They'll run the ball through Johnson. I think it's gonna be a pretty good game for Houston. They're the 3-point favorites. I think they're probably a touchdown better than Detroit. But like I say every week, Detroit's one of these magical teams that plays up or plays down to their level of competition. You never really know what you're going to get out of them, and this has all the makings of a game that I think the Texans are going to dominate, and the Lions are going to be the good Lions this week and win by 2 touchdowns. That's just sort of like in my gut feeling. I have no claims to back that up, which is exactly how I analyze the Detroit Lions every single week. Let's move on over to America's team. They play every Thanksgiving as well. The Dallas Cowboys host the Washington football team. Andy Dalton is back. Alex Smith is slinging it for Washington. These are teams that, a few weeks ago were pretty down and out. And now, I don't know, they're making some strides. They're competing for the NFC East Championship. I have a shot in there as well with my 0 wins this season. But listen, someone's got to win it. One of these teams is going to make the playoffs, and it's really anyone's game right now. They're all about the same in the standings. So, Rich, kick this one off. What are your thoughts here?
I mean, I think that they're both looking forward to this game because the only games that they seem to win is interdivisional. It's going to be another stink game that they should have probably planned better because there's going to be millions of people around the world just watching this and trying to enjoy their turkey. And then this game's just going to give them indigestion because it's going to be garbage. But, there's a lot of good players just because both defenses are trash. So if you have, let's say, Antonio Gibson, who I do, and I'm in first place, mostly due to him. For me, I think he's a top 5 rookie this year without a doubt. He's definitely someone that's going to get involved early and often for the Washington football team. Alex Smith is having a great comeback tour. He's without a doubt going to win comeback player of the year. McLaurin is doing well with him. Even Steven Sims is doing well with him. And then on the other side of the ball, Andy Dalton bounced back last week, coming back from his COVID concussion and all his crazy stuff that's happened to him since he was named the starter. I think, this is probably going to be the week when they start to gel just because the football team's defense is not great. The defensive line is great with Chase Young, but in the secondary, they're just not there. So CeeDee Lamb, I expect to have a good game. I think Amari Cooper can also have a good game. And Zeke, he's having the worst year of his career. He's going to have to bounce back in this game. As far as a winner, I'm going to go with the Cowboys, just simply because I feel like they have a more complete team. But it's going to be close and it's going to be garbage.
See, I'm kind of leaning the other way. I like Washington here. I think, and maybe it's just me having a soft spot for Alex Smith and liking a few of those skill players that you mentioned. I don't like the fact that they've ruined Joe Burrow's career last week. Yeah. But that being said, this defensive line can get after the quarterback. And I think if you can pressure Andy Dalton, he's not going to play well. He's not mobile enough to escape. And, the Dallas offensive line was really good. I think it's taken a few steps back over the years. I do think that this will be an offensive game. I just like Washington a little bit more than I like Dallas here. There's a couple of interesting prop bets as well when you look at FanDuel Sportsbook of just players to get in the end zone. I think Gibson can get in the end zone. He's got some pretty good odds. I think McLaurin can get into the end zone. He's got some good odds. Logan Thomas is another player who could potentially get into the end zone. He has some good odds. Really, when you look down the line here, everyone has positive odds here to get into the end zone when you're looking at the betting line, with the exception of Ezekiel Elliott. So you could actually make some money off of what I think will be a potentially high-scoring game. By just kind of betting that little prop bet. So I like Washington here, but I think we have a similar analysis, just a little bit of a coin flip as to who wins the game. And Vegas supports that, right, with the odds being so close in the betting line. Let's talk about the game that was supposed to be scheduled for Thursday night. Now it's scheduled for sometime on Sunday, and that's the Baltimore Ravens against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Currently, no betting odds or anything like that listed as of this show, but I think we were talking before we got on, Rich, and Pittsburgh is just far and away the better team this season. A little to my surprise, I was a big Lamar Jackson fan heading into the season and thought the Ravens were all that in a bag of chips. But their lack of blue chip players on the offense, with Lamar Jackson having a little bit of a slump, is equaling they're not that dominant of a team. And when you look at a team like the Steelers, they have players who can make X factor type plays. You have Chase Claypool running down the sideline, making big plays. Big Ben can throw it deep. Connor's a quality running back. You have Juju Smith-Schuster, Deontay Johnson. I might be blanking on his name or saying it wrong. But listen, like the Steelers have the guys to make the plays, and there's a reason why they're undefeated. So I like them a lot in this one. I like them a lot in this one on Thursday, and I like them even more on Sunday with the chance to rest up and get healthier. What's your thoughts here?
I think the NFL has officially figured out Lamar Jackson, and it's going to be a fall from grace from this point on. It's going to be similar to what happened with RG3. He started off really strong. Obviously, RG3 had a lot of injuries. I think with Lamar, it's all going to be mental. People get figured out. When you're the one person on your team that's the X factor, they try to eliminate you, and that's essentially what happened. It was a big mistake to let Hayden Hurst go, because when he had 2 tight end sets, he was much better at just dropping off little dump passes for security blankets. He doesn't have that anymore. Mark Andrews had a great game last week, but no one else did. I think they have the worst wide receiver core in the NFL. If you're just looking at it on paper, Hollywood Brown is not a number 1 wide receiver, and it's to the point where Dez Bryant was in the game. Dez Bryant should not be in an NFL game in 2020. It's just not a thing. Obviously, they have really good coaching, but on the flip side of that, Mike Tomlin's one of the best coaches of all time. Big Ben is one of the best quarterbacks of all time. That wide receiver core that they have is probably the best trio in the NFL right now, with Claypool, Johnson, and Juju. You sprinkle in Connor, who's doing much better, and that defense is the best defense in the NFL. I just don't see that this game's going to be even competitive. So I'm starting Deontay Johnson every single week. He's had he had over 100 yards last week. I think he had over 100 yards the week before. Claypool's the guy that's going to get into the end zone, and Juju is kind of the forgotten man out of all those 3, which is great for the Steelers because he's not going to be on the team next year. So I think they're going to go 11-0, and it doesn't really matter what day it is.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. The Steelers are just proven to be one of the best teams in football this year, and the Ravens are slumping for sure. They're going to need talent around Lamar Jackson. He can't do it by himself. I don't know if they've quite figured him out. I just think he doesn't have the support he needs to be effective, because you can scheme out one player, and especially if he doesn't have anyone to throw it to. It's real easy to spy on a mobile quarterback. Let's head on over to New England. They are hosting the Arizona Cardinals. The Pats have looked better than they did a few weeks ago, but they still don't look great. And the Cardinals have been a very, very impressive team this season. I think they will end up winning the NFC West. I just think that they're playing a very complete brand of football. They've gotten a little lucky on some Hail Marys there. But Kyler Murray looks good. They're calling games well. They're playing a very kind of fun brand of football. And I think they're just the better team here. I think there's a lot of quality players across Arizona's offense that are worth starting. I like Rex Burkhead on the New England side in terms of running backs. No, he's out.
He's out for the year.
The year? What happened? I fell asleep on Sunday.
He tore some stuff.
Oh, no. Well, I liked him. He was good.
James White now. He does the same role.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look at James White, I guess. He's no Rex Burkhead, but I'll take him. And Bird had a great game last week. Mm-hmm. My boy flew like a bird. I liked him and Cam Newton's a little whatever. It was great. I don't know if he has 2 great games in a row, but I think he's starting to get a little bit of a chemistry with Cam Newton. Arizona's defense is relatively light. They're one of the worst in the league, kind of against wide receivers. I think 29th is what SleeperBot tells me. Last week, Bird had 26.3 points against Houston. Didn't do much against Baltimore, but the week before against the Jets had over 10 points. So I think he could potentially have another good game. He has a good matchup here against Arizona, and is someone you could work into your lineups if you're battling injury or anything along those lines. He should be relatively available across your leagues. Rich, what about you? What do you like about this game?
I like the other guy. I'm a Jacoby Myers fan. I mean, I think that he's the most consistent. I think that Bird is the biggest boom or bust guy, but Jacoby Myers is going to get 5 or 6 catches a game and, probably average 40 to 50 yards, or maybe he'll throw in a touchdown. So if you want someone that is going to at least get 10, he'd be the guy that I would target as far as with the Patriots wide receiving core. I really do like Damian Harris this week, especially with Rex Burkhead going down. I don't even care. Sony Michel's coming back. Damian Harris is pretty much the bell cow with James White as the receiving back right now. On the flip side, for some reason, the Cardinals absolutely love Kenyon Drake, and I'll never understand it, but they give him the ball 20 times a game. So he's probably someone you should start along with Kyler Murray, Hopkins, and Kirk, the usual suspects. And I like Zane Gonzalez this week too. I think that, the Patriots can stop touchdowns, but they always give up tons of yards. So, if you need a kicker, Zane Gonzalez is a good throw in there. And as far as with the division, honestly, I think the most well-rounded team in that division is the Rams at this point. You look at the Seahawks, they have the offense, they don't have the defense. You look at the Cardinals, they can't close games. They have Kyler Murray, who's great, and then their defense lets everything go. You look at the Rams, they seem to complete every game that they have the lead. So if I'm a betting man, which I am, I'm going to put a few dollars on the Rams to win the division at this point.
The Rams are an interesting team to me. I feel like they're good, but I don't know if they've beaten any teams that I would say are top tier teams. They played a great game against the Bucs last week, but the Bucs are another team where they have a good record, but I don't know if they're necessarily one of the better teams in the NFL. When they play the better teams, they don't tend to do well. So I don't know, just sort of something to keep an eye on, I suppose. But the Rams are a very good team as well. I think that'll be a close battle for the division. Let's talk about our next game here on the docket, and that's the Carolina Panthers, 4.5-point underdogs to the Minnesota Vikings. I thought the Panthers looked really good last week, even with PJ Walker quarterback. I thought they were able to move the ball pretty effectively, and they're getting healthier, right? Teddy Bridgewater is practicing and looks like he should be able to play on Sunday. The Vikings are they look okay as well. I don't know why. I have this real soft spot in my heart for Carolina, and I just feel like that they will beat Minnesota. I don't really have any grounds for that. They have very similar records. I know Dalvin Cook is running the football well, but I just really don't like Kirk Cousins, and I think that is manifesting in my analysis of this game. What about you? What's your feelings here?
So Kirk Cousins isn't the problem in Minnesota this year. It's their defense. I hate Kirk Cousins too, but it really is their defense. I mean, if you're looking at Kirk Cousins, stats and everything else, Adam Thielen's catching nothing but touchdowns, and Justin Jefferson's probably going close to 100 yards every game. So, I mean, they have their 2 wide receivers of the future. They have the top, I'm going to call them top 3 running back. And then Christian McCaffrey is not playing this week again. So, Carolina has an uphill battle. Teddy Bridgewater's coming back, not completely 100%, obviously, after the injury. The Vikings just laid an egg against the Cowboys and lost, which no one thought would happen. But I think they bounced back this week against the Panthers. And that's not saying the Panthers are a bad team. It's just, based on the situation, I think that the Vikings are going to bounce back. But I could see DJ Moore having a good game. Mike Davis is going to have a good game because he'll have a good game every game that Christian McCaffrey doesn't play. I wouldn't start Bridgewater this week because I think it's going to be, he's not completely there yet. But I think the Vikings win, and it's going to be a close game, though.
I don't know, man. I can't get with you there. I think listen, you just talked about how the Vikings defense is pretty porous this week. I think even if Bridgewater's not 100%, he's going to have a pretty good game. And Bridgewater has a real good connection with my boy Robbie Anderson, who I think should also perform pretty well. Don't nod your head no at me. That Jets hat on your head can hate the Jets all they want, but Robbie Anderson's having a good year, especially in fantasy. Let's head on down the line here to the Jacksonville Jaguars, 6.5-point underdogs against the Cleveland Browns. I think I just read today, and you can confirm or deny that the giraffe is starting for the Jaguars this week.
Yep.
He sure is. Your favorite giraffe. So why don't you kick this one off for us?
They're gonna lose. The Jags are gonna lose. I mean, there's no way around that. They're gonna get demolished. The fact that it's 6.5 doesn't make any damn sense to me. Mike Glennon should be throwing bowling balls, not footballs. He should retire. Go back to the zoo. Get free. Kibble from the kids who were passing by. But there's
toys
no one
back. You could be selling toys. I don't get what he's doing.
Jeffrey Glennon over there. But the only one that I'm going to even look to start on the Jags is Robinson, just simply because it's going to be the only guy in town that's going to be able to get the ball consistently. On the flip side, you got to start the Browns defense if you have them. They're probably going to have another defensive touchdown like they did last week. You start Nick Chubb, you start Hunt. I want to say start Landry, but I can never start Landry, even though he's the number one wide receiver now. You don't start Landry. Just go running backs. If you want to throw Baker Mayfield in there, I'm sure he's going to perform well. I just don't know which person he's going to pick to target this week. But yeah, this is going to be like a 28-3 type game. I mean, there's not going to be any points coming from the Jags, which upsets me because I need them to win one more game total, and then I'll feel happy. But it's not going to happen this week.
Yeah, I don't think this is the week the Jags are going to get that win for you. But I like the Browns minus 6.5 a lot here. And yeah, when it comes to Cleveland, their running backs really do seem to be the top performers, and even from any kind of fantasy perspective. None of their wide receivers are consistent enough. The tight end position isn't consistent enough. But both those running backs, they like to eat. They get in the end zone a lot. Those are the guys you should be focusing on in your dailies, and if you were lucky enough to draft them at the beginning of the season. Let's head on over to Atlanta, Rich. The Falcons are 3-point underdogs to the Las Vegas Raiders. Break it down for us. What do you like here?
Raiders are a great team, and I never felt that way about the Raiders before, but they are a well-rounded, well-coached, well-drafted team. And it's, I don't think
Mike Mayock. We all made fun of him at first, but he built a very solid team there.
Yeah, and Gruden's coaching it well. I mean, I am not a huge Carr fan. I never will be. But, the team is just, people who would not be good on other teams are flourishing. You look at Nelson Aguilar. He's going to make the Pro Bowl, which is insane because he couldn't catch a ball in Philly. But now you see that maybe Carson Wentz was the issue there. Hunter Renfrow, who is Cooper Kupp light, is doing well there. Darren Waller is a top 3 tight end in the NFL. Josh Jacobs is a top 5 running back. Their defense gets to the quarterback. I mean, they should have beat the Chiefs, but I mean, the Chiefs are on another level. But if you're looking at that team, I love everything they're doing. You look at the Falcons defense, it's bottom 5. So Carr is going to be a great start. Waller is going to be a good start. I start Jacobs. If you need a flex, you put Aguilar in there. I mean, you can do a lot of things with the Raiders team. On the flip side, Matt Ryan, he's still going to swing it around. Julio's a game time decision, so you start Ridley. Gurley, last week he didn't fall into the end zone, which obviously he ended up with 3 points because all his points come from a 1-yard rush, or he doesn't get any points whatsoever. So I would bench him this week. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. You can go for the skill positions on the Raiders and Matt Ryan and Ridley for the Falcons because the Raiders are going to win by at least 10.
Yeah, and I think it's taken me a few weeks to really figure out the fact that the Raiders are good. They were a bit of an anomaly for me for a while, but they're a quality football team. They can compete with the better teams in the NFL. They've played the Saints, they've played the Chiefs this year, right? And they've been in those football games. I think that they are a very talented team, and they are someone to keep an eye on in the AFC, especially as we get inch closer and closer to the playoffs. Speaking of a playoff team, let's talk about the Buffalo Bills. I think they will win this division with some ease when it's all said and done in the AFC East. They are the 5.5-point favorites against the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers finally able to win a football game last week against the New York Jets. That being said, they've been in every single football game that they've played. Their record could easily be flipped, but last week they were finally able to get the job done against a borderline college football team in the New York Jets. I think the Chargers are talented. The Bills, I just think, are better. I think they play defense well. I think Josh Allen, while he's fumble prone, has proven that he can score points and win football games this season. They're going to try and get after him. He's very good at getting out of the sacks. He's mobile enough where I think he can avoid the pressure that LA is going to bring. And at the end of the day, I just think they're a better football team. I think they win this game. I think it'll end up being close, though. I think this will probably end up being a field goal type of game when it's all said and done. So I don't know about the 5.5 spread, but I think Buffalo's a better team here.
I think it comes down to Eckler. I mean, if Eckler plays this game, I think it's going to be super, super close. The Chargers defense is terrible. It really is. I mean, if you just look at what the Jets did to the Chargers last week, it's just no one should let Joe Flacco look like that. But that's the second time Joe Flacco looked good. The first time, obviously, against the Patriots. They started off with a pick six, so you thought everything was going to be smooth sailing. Actually, no, they started with giving up a touchdown right off the bat to Pirine, and then it was the pick six. But the defense, they give up every game. It's not the offense. Herbert is the rookie of the year. Keenan Allen's going to the Pro Bowl. Hunter Henry is a complete tight end. Mike Williams is a perfect complement, number 2. It's just their defense, and it's going to be hard to contain all the weapons that are in Buffalo. So I agree that Buffalo will win, but Eckler might make it really, really questionable. I'm starting Diggs this week, and then you could start Josh Allen as well.
Yeah, I'm with you on this game. Let's talk about another AFC East matchup here. So, the Miami Dolphins, 6.5-point favorites against the New York Football Jets. The Dolphins looked really bad last week. Tua got benched, which is kind of insane to me. Let the kid finish out the game. I get they were trying to find a spark or whatever, but when you already had quarterback controversy in that locker room, where the team was responding well to Fitz, and you put in the kid, and the kid had a couple of good games, and everyone's saying, "Oh my God, Tua is the next best thing in the world," and then he has a bad half, and Ryan Fitzpatrick finishes out the game. It's just weird, and this to me is the game the Jets could win. Miami is the better team. I think if they can put last week behind them, they should win and dominate this game. But the Jets haven't been playing terrible football the last 2 weeks, or 3 weeks even. I mean, they've been in football games. Flacco's been able to throw the ball deep, score some points. They're getting Pirine involved. They're not looking terrible. And after all this quarterback drama and controversy in Miami, I don't know. To me, this is a bit of a trap game for Miami. They might be overlooking this one. They might be looking at it as like, okay, we'll get an easy win and we'll right the ship. And I think this is going to be a lot harder of a game for them. From a fantasy perspective, Rich, who do you like here?
It really comes down to who starts a quarterback. If Ryan Fitzpatrick starts for the Dolphins will win. If Tua starts, I think the Jets are going to win. I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick knows the Jets inside and out. He knows how to beat them. He won by 30 a few weeks ago against the Jets. I don't love Tua. I think, maybe he's still coming back from the injuries, but I mean, he is looking like Pua. I mean, and he hasn't had a great game. So, for me, the weakest part of the Jets right now is their secondary. They started Lamar Jackson and Bryce Hall last week, who Bryce Hall should still not be on the field because he's not medically there yet. And Lamar Jackson, no one knew who he was except for his mother. So, it's just the whole team is up in the air right now. But they do have, which we thought was going to be one of their weakest spots. Their wide receiver core is becoming one of their strongest units right now. Mims, he's going to be good. There's no doubt about it. He's making Joe Flacco look great. Perryman, you should extend him.
The Perryman-Flacco connection has been really, really strong.
Yeah, extend that, man. Even for next year when Lawrence is here, knock on wood, you could run for 49 yards and just do fly routes like Robbie Anderson did. And then Crowder obviously has the most talent out of all three of them. They have no tight ends to speak of, which is fine. We don't need them. P. Ryan's on injury reserve. So you're going to have Frank Gore running the ball 80% of the time, which that seems to be the trend anyway. But on the flip side, if Tua starts, you have Gesicki, who's going to be a good start. Gaskin's coming back this week, I believe. And then if Gaskin doesn't come back, Ahmad was a good Ahmed is a good start. Parker is someone I'm definitely starting this week, no matter who the quarterback is, just because the secondary for the Jets is so bad. But yeah, if Fitzpatrick starts, Dolphins win. If Tua starts, the Jets are getting their one and only win.
So a potential trap game in New York for the Miami Dolphins. And let's talk about the crosstown team, the New York Giants, on the road against the Cincinnati Bengals. Giants 5.5-point favorites. Might be the first time they've been favorites all season long. It looks like they should get a win outside of their division here, with Joe Burrow having a horrific knee injury last week against the football team. We pray for his recovery and for my fantasy team's hopes in our Dynasty League that he will be okay. I'm just playing. We, of course, want every player to be okay. It was a horrific knee injury. You hate to see that, especially at the quarterback position, where the NFL has made such strides to kind of remove that from the game and really protect that position. And it still ultimately failed them. It was like a total, like everything in his knee is torn. I mean, he's going to have some serious rehabbing to go. But he's a fighter. He's a good football player. I think he should be able to make a comeback, and it's something to keep an eye on heading into next season. But for this week, Burrow was that entire team. They no longer have Burrow. They don't have a shot. I think the Giants' defense is one of the best starts of the week that one could make. And I think there's also some opportunities along the Giants' offense for some players because the Bengals are a pretty porous defense, to say the least. Is there anything you want to add about this one, Rich?
Well, I mean, I've been saying it for about a month and a half. The Giants' pass defense is pretty good. Now you add Ryan Finley, it's going to be elite. So, yeah, the Giants' defense is a must-start. I like Wayne Gallman a lot this week. He seems to be a big fatty that gets in the end zone. As far as the wide receivers, I don't really know which one that Daniel Jones is going to go after, but I really wouldn't start any of them, honestly. Evan Ingram might be the start this week, just because he seems consistent against bad teams. And on the Bengals side of the ball, I guess if you have to start someone, it would be Giovanni Bernard, just because there's no quarterback there, so they're going to have to run the ball early and often. But that eliminates AJ Green, eliminates T. Higgins, eliminates Tyler Boyd, eliminates everyone on the Bengals. If you have them on your fantasy team, you might as well just drop them.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best advice we could give on this program today. Let's head on over to Indianapolis. The Tennessee Titans are 3-point underdogs to the Colts. I think that's a pretty interesting spread. I know the Titans have kind of regressed a little bit since their early in the season dominant form, and I know the Colts have a very, very good defense. But that being said, I don't know if I quite agree that the Colts are the better team here. I think Derrick Henry is still able to run the football very effectively, and I think that offensively speaking, the Titans do a lot of things to confuse defenses, and they can beat you a lot of different ways. Tannehill can beat you with his arm. They can beat you on the ground. You have to really play solid for all 4 quarters to try and keep up with them. I know the Titans' defense is a liability, but I like Tennessee in this matchup. I think they're a very good football team. The Colts, on the other hand, I love their defense, but I don't love Rivers. I think they use the tight ends well, but the wide receivers don't really do a lot for me. And they really need to just commit to running the football with Jonathan Taylor as opposed to this back by committee thing. I don't know. Am I crazy for thinking the Titans are a better football team, or are you kind of in the same boat?
I think the Colts win again. I mean, they won 34-17 2 weeks ago, and
It's Thursday night.
I mean, what the only thing that changed is the Titans beat the Ravens, who we think are slumping, and the Colts beat the Packers, who are one of the best teams in the NFL. So for me, I think the Colts win again. The Titans don't play well against the Colts. And the running back that I think that's going to have another amazing game is going to be Hines. I mean, I wouldn't fix something that's not broken. He completely destroyed the Titans. And I would go with Michael Pittman again, too, because Michael Pittman also destroyed the Titans. Derrick Henry had a stinker of a game, but I think he'll have the bounce back out of the targets. As if I'm going to start a Titan, it's going to be Derrick Henry. I would bench Tannehill because he can't play well against the Colts either.
They've had one game this season.
No, last year too.
Come on.
The divisional, opponent.
It's like a handful of games. You can't say that they can't do anything against them. It's like a handful of games. It's a very small sample size.
I'll bet you $1 the Colts win.
All right, I'll take that $1.
All right, I'm gonna say Tannehill is gonna have a stinker. $1 on the line. That's my 2 cents.
Okay, I'll take you $1.02 when the Titans win on Sunday.
We got sales tax now.
No, listen, I think you make a valid point. I just don't like the Colts. I don't know how they beat the Packers last week because they didn't so I was multitasking on Sunday, just being perfectly frank. And the Packers were winning. I went to do something. I turned around and all of a sudden it was overtime. I have no idea how it got there. I didn't watch the game. But listen, that seems a little too fishy for me. I think there was some witchcraft afoot, and I just think the Titans are a better team. We'll go with that.
Yeah, it was all about the fumble. Yeah, your guy, Valdez-Scantling fumbled away the game. That's what happened.
I don't know how he's my guy. I have Devontae Adams in my fantasy team. I've never once.
I can't claim him, so I'm going to give him the year.
All right, I'll take it. That's fine. That's fine. Let's head on over to Sunday afternoon. It's the 4:00 block. The New Orleans Saints on the road against the Denver Broncos. The Broncos have been playing some decent football lately. That being said, the Saints are probably a better team, but with Taysom Hill at quarterback, I don't know. It's a little bit of a wild card. He looked decent last week. He made some plays. I think the consensus was people expected him to be a little bit more mobile and do some more gadgety stuff, and he played a little bit more of a conservative game than people thought he would. Whether or not that continues to be the trend against Denver is another story. But I think this one should be a more fun game than the line suggests at 6.5. What do you think?
I think it's going to be a blowout. I mean, I'm just going to be honest. I mean, I think the Saints are just going to throttle the Broncos. I think Taysom Hill is going to feel comfortable enough to do, like you said, more mobile stuff. I think Kamara is going to get involved more often. Michael Thomas had over 100 yards last week. So Michael Thomas is a happy boy. Their defense is going to figure out Drew Lock. I think Drew Lock is still pretty injured. On the Broncos side of the ball, I really like Tim Patrick. Tim Patrick, I'm going to say it every week. He's the number one wide receiver. He's above Judy on my list. And all he does is put over 10 plus fantasy points every week. He did it last week. He did it the week before. I mean, he's consistent. He's one of the most consistent wide receivers in the NFL right now. Melvin Gordon got into the action a little bit, which is what they have to do. They just need to make him the bell cow. But the Saints, I think, win this by at least 14 points.
I don't know if it's quite that distant of a game. Taysom Hill is still very young. He had one good game as a starting quarterback, and that's really the X factor for me where I don't really know. Should he continue to progress and have a good game? Yeah, this is probably a blowout. But given the inexperience there at being kind of a standard quarterback is the bit of a pause for me. And I think that Locke is actually pretty good. I've liked what I've seen from him when he's healthy. And the Broncos were able to really like decimate a surging Dolphin team. They were playing good football. They were winning games, and they were basically blanked last week. I mean, I know Fitz did some stuff coming in relief, but that was an embarrassing game from the Dolphins side of things. And I thought the Broncos looked good. So I think we both think the Saints win. They probably cover the spread. You think 14 points. I think it's probably a touchdown. Let's head on over to the LA Rams, who Rich is betting to win the NFC West. I think that could potentially work out. I think Arizona might give him a run for his money. That being said, I think they're clearly the better football team in this matchup against the San Francisco 49ers. What about you?
Oh yeah, this is going to be not close either. Mostert might come back this week, which is going to be great for the 49ers because he's by far their best running back. He's probably their best weapon right now. I mean, out with Kittle still being out. Kittle, Mostert, and Debo, when they all play together, they play well, but that hasn't happened this year. Jimmy G is still out, so it's going to be the Nick Mullins show. I think the Rams, their defense is going to be a must start. Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, they are playing on fire. You just saw what happened against the Bucs. I would start both of them. Higbee got into the action. I would avoid the running back situation because they have three, and if you have more than one, you have too many for me. On the 49ers side of the ball, if Mostert plays, I mean, you got to start him. I mean, he's going to be the bell cow right off the bat. And then, maybe Debo, maybe, because he's going to be the target if he's in there. But I think this, again, is probably going to be a 14-point at least game with the Rams winning.
I'm with you. I think the defense scores from Los Angeles, and I don't think this one's even remotely close. I like LA a lot here. Let's talk about the Tampa Bay Bucks. Tom Brady. They have a good record, but he's not having a particularly good season. Will be hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs are only 3.5-point favorites. This is probably like the closest spread that they've had all season long. And I think that they are significantly better than Tampa Bay, especially after that performance that Tampa just had against the Rams. I just think that this game really won't be all that close either. I think this could be similar to the game of the Bucs Saints, where the Bucs just never looked right. They didn't really stand a chance, and they couldn't really compete with the upper echelon of the NFL. This is kind of our kind of go-to. I think there's a lot of value on the Chiefs side. If you have a Chief, go ahead and start them because I think they're going to be able to score some points. And on the Tampa side of the ball, I would sit down almost everybody because I think the Chiefs' defense is a lot better than people realize.
Yeah, I mean, the only one on the Bucs that I would think about starting is Mike Evans because, he has been the most consistent, receiver. Even if it's catching a 3-yard touchdown, he's still getting in the end zone. And when he doesn't get in the end zone, he's still catching, 6 to 7 balls. So as far as that goes, Evans would be the only one that I would touch. Even Godwin, I mean, if he didn't get that last garbage touchdown last week, his stat line would be terrible. On the other side of the ball, the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL. They're going to win the Super Bowl again. Patrick Mahomes is going to be the MVP again. I mean, they're really good for football, and they're healthy. So you start Travis Kelce, you start Mahomes, you start Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you start Tyreek Hill. I mean, that team is just loaded. I hope Le'Veon Bell gets a hangnail and has to go out of the game because seeing him get a touchdown last week didn't make me happy. But yeah, this could be another Saints game. On paper, these teams look to be close based on roster, but they're not. I think the Chiefs win by at least 10.
Yeah, I have the same feeling. I just think they're so much better than the Bucs. I'm very surprised that this is the line as well. I thought for sure coming off of that performance as well that this would be further. But 3.5, take it, man. Put your money on Kansas City. I think it's going to be worth it. And now Sunday Night Football, Rich. The Packers, I think, are going to be out here looking for revenge. I feel like they're going to be out for blood against Chicago. Again, I didn't watch most of that Colts game, and I'm regretting it. But I was watching the first part of it, the Packers were winning big. I went to do something else. I came back and it was overtime. And the Packers also forced the overtime. They had the ball, and then they just kind of gave it away at the very end due to apparently my boy Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
That's right.
I don't think they let that happen again. I think they're going to put the beat down on the Bears. I think Devontae Adams has another giant game because that's what he does. I think that I don't know why I always forget the running back's name. It's so generic. Aaron Jones?
Yep.
I think he has a big game. I know the Bears defense is talented, but I just don't see a scenario in which the Packers offense gets embarrassed 2 weeks in a row. And I don't see a scenario in which they don't win this game.
I think the Bears are one of the worst teams in the NFL. Even when they were undefeated, I didn't think they were a good team. Now that they've lost every game, it seems logical that they're poop, and that's what they are. Packers are going to throttle the Bears. There's no way around it. Aaron Rodgers is going to have 3 touchdowns. Your actual boy Devontae Adams is probably going to be the recipient of 2 of those. I think Alan Lazard has a good game just because Valdez-Scantling is probably not going to be trusted because he just gave that game away. Aaron Jones is going to have a really good game. The Packers defense is a must start for me. I'm adding them the same amount of times I'm adding the Giants. I think they're right there. On the Bears side of the ball, Allen Robinson plays well with either scrub that's going to start. If it's Foles, if it's what's his name, Mitch Trubisky, he'll be good. No one else. Literally no one else. Montgomery is going to play. He's not good to start even when he starts. So it's the Allen Robinson show, and I'm so happy that he's going to be rescued next season by a team. Even if it's my stupid team, he'll at least be respected.
I was going to say, he's going to end up on your hat, right? Like
you might, and that's my boy Allen Robinson. So Trevor Lawrence throwing to him is going to be beautiful. If it's Sam Darnold, he'll probably die halfway through the season. So hopefully, we have a good backup. But this one might be the biggest blowout of the week. Let's call it 34-17.
Yeah. This is one I'm gonna fall asleep during, especially with it being the night game. And now one game left to talk about, Rich, and that's Monday Night Football. Philadelphia Eagles will host the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks have not been doing great the last couple of weeks. Their defense has continued to be a problem for them. They were able to win last week against the Cardinals, but prior to that, they lose to the Rams. They lose to the Bills. They're not quite playing their best brand of football against good teams. That's kind of the big emphasis here. They haven't been playing well against good teams. The Eagles are not a good team. No. They're not playing good football. Carson Wentz is not doing well. For lack of a better term, he was having that MVP year a couple seasons ago. He got hurt, and he's never been the same. The Eagles went on to win the Super Bowl without him, and I don't know. He's just salty or something. It's not working out with Carson Wentz, and they're just so beat up around the rest of the roster. I think there's some fantasy value on some Eagles offensive players, just given how bad the Seahawks defense is. But I think a lot of Seahawks receivers and offensive players are going to bounce back this week. I think DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Russell Wilson all have good games. I think offensively the Seahawks are going to dominate this one.
This is going to be the type of game where you're going to see Geno Smith finish the game up because the Seahawks are up so much. The Eagles are worse than the Jets.
Somehow.
I will say that 100%. If they faced each other, the Jets would win, and it would ruin my entire life. But they're terrible. They are the worst team in the NFC East. I think that, they got lucky early on with a lot of games that went their way, but they still only won 3 games. I think they can statistically finish with the worst record in their own division. Carson Wentz, there's something going on with him. He has 14 interceptions. Even with the Seahawks defense being terrible, this is going to be the game where they're like, oh, we can get it back. Miles Sanders is the only one that I would touch on the Eagles side of the ball, and the Seahawks are good against the run. That's how bad I think the Eagles are. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Russell Wilson, Chris Carson. If he plays, you start every single person you can against this Eagles team. And if you're really desperate, this might be the game where you actually start the Seattle Seahawks defense, because they're available in every league, because statistically they're one of the worst pass defenses of all time. But Carson Wentz can't throw himself out of a cardboard box. So this is the week to get healthy. Seahawks win big.
And now with that, I mean, I agree with you 100%. Let's talk about some daily fantasy lineups. You made one before the recording. I should have, so I'm going to make one on the fly while you talk about your daily fantasy lineup.
All right. So at quarterback, I have the unicorn Taysom Hill from the New Orleans Saints. He's 7,300. The Denver defense is not going to be able to contain him. He's going to throw for a lot of yards, and he's going to run for a lot of yards. I also have Alvin Kamara at running back, 8,600. I like the New Orleans Saints a lot this week. Kamara is one of the top running backs in the NFL. It's a no-brainer. Got into the end zone last week. Running back, I got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 6,700. They go against Tampa Bay. I think that Kansas City is going to use all its weapons early and often. I think he's going to get into the end zone. He should be the bell cow, and he proved that he was last week. I have Tim Patrick, my number one wide receiver from Denver, going against the Saints. The Saints are going to be up, so obviously they're going to have to throw the ball. Luck is going to have to throw to the guy that he trusts, which is Patrick. I can see him ending with about 15 fantasy points. Wide receiver, I got Justin Jefferson from the Minnesota Vikings. He's up there for Rookie of the Year. I mean, if you're looking at it on paper, it's really between him, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Justin Herbert at this point. Justin Jefferson is a beast. He's making people forget about Stephon Diggs in Minnesota. 7,000. He's a good play. Wide receiver, I got Devontae Parker. He's going against the Giants secondary, which is one of the worst secondaries that I can imagine, which is saying a lot because it's the Jets. 6,500. The Jets are 28th against the pass, and it's going to get even worse for them this week. Tight end, I got Darren Waller. Got into the end zone last week. Without a doubt, top 3 tight end. He is probably number 2 behind Kelsey right now because Kittle is out. 7,100. The Atlanta Falcons are last in the NFL against tight ends, so it's a no-brainer. Flex, I got Robert Woods. He went over 100 yards this week. He got into the end zone. They use him in the backfield to do misdirection. San Francisco's defense is completely battered and bruised. And at 6,800, it's a good play. And then Giants defense, 4,300. Finley is not going to do anything against this team. I think the Giants win. I think they won with ease. Danny Dimes has a good game. And, that's it. I think that lineup is definitely going to cash.
I like that lineup. And we were talking about it before the show. I think the Giants obviously add a ton of value because I think defensively they're just going to go off. Additionally, and I'm just going to pull it up again so I can speak a little bit more intelligently, Taysom Hill has a lot of value at fantasy quarterback, especially if they open it up a little bit. They get a little bit more gadgety with him because he's just going to get all kinds of crazy yards. They could even do some wildcat stuff where Kamara maybe flips it over to him. And I mean, there's just a lot of potential for some crazy fantasy points out of him. And the only player, kind of in your lineup that is iffy for me is Devontae Parker. I know playing against the Jets is a very easy fantasy thing, but I just don't know what to expect out of Miami this week with how bad a performance they had last week against Denver. So that's really the only player that gives me pause, but I think he's probably going to get in the end zone because the Jets are atrocious. So I just put this together. The order might be a little bit funky, but it's a good lineup. We used all but $100 on this, and I feel pretty good about it. So at quarterback, I have Derek Carr facing the worst defense in the NFL against Atlanta, and we're going to be using a bit of a Las Vegas stack here. At running back, we got Mike Davis. I think he's going to have a good game against Minnesota. We're using Kareem Hunt at the other running back position to save a couple of bucks, and I think he's going to get into the end zone anyway because they're going to have to run the football so much against Jacksonville because they're going to be up by a ton. I can't make a FanDuel lineup without DeAndre Hopkins. So DeAndre Hopkins. I have Justin Jefferson as well here. You talked about him before. He's having a great season. I think he has a great game. Nelson Aguilar. We talked about him earlier. He's having a fantastic season. It's a great matchup. I think he's going to get in the end zone. And again, that Las Vegas stack. And I'm also going to use Waller, one of the better tight ends in the league this season, one of the more consistent tight ends in the league this season, and really just kind of spamming that matchup. And we're going to close out my lineup with 2 Los Angeles Rams. The first being Cooper Kupp at 6,700, I think is a steal and a half. He balled out last week. He's one of the most underrated wide receivers in the NFL. I think he's going to have another monstrous game. And the Rams defense. We talked about 2 defenses having a lot of value this week. This is one of them. I'm a fan of this lineup. I think it should cash. I think you get a lot of value out of some lower priced players on this. And go ahead, play it, have some fun, enjoy your daily fantasy lineups. Anything you'd like to add on this program, Rich?
That'll do her.
That'll do it. we still coming up with a catchphrase. Rich seems to remember that I said that'll do her. I don't think I've ever said that once in my life, but it's becoming the catchphrase. So thank you so much for listening to Daily to Dynasty this week and every week. Let us know in the comment section below who are your must plays, who are you using in your fantasy lineups. We'd love to hear from you. You can also reach out to us on Twitter on the addresses there below at cgorbs94 at Coda522. You can also, and I probably have a graphic for this somewhere, head on over to anchor.fm/daily2dynasty. You can leave us a voicemail, interact with us over there as well. We have a lot of fun doing this show. We want to help you win your fantasy football leagues, your daily fantasy football lineups. So go ahead and interact with us, like, subscribe, reach out to us on Twitter, all that fun stuff. For Rich, I'm Craig Orbanoff. This has been Daily to Dynasty, and apparently that'll do her.